Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel, thank you for being here and putting up with all of our questions. We appreciate it. I want you to know that your team is always very responsive to my office when we call and have questions, and actually reach out to me often through the years. And one of the things that's important to me is school safety, and it's of utmost importance to Pennsylvanians. In recent years, PSP has reported a backlog of school district requests. This is in the past, not this past 12 months, but in the past years. After we had a couple of events, and in 2013, I was honored to chair a House Committee on School Safety. And these requests from school districts come into PSP to review the school buildings and active shooter plans, and to which then you guys provide your expertise on building safety, physical ground safety, as well as review the action plans of the personnel. Then you give input there. So I just wanted to kind of lead the question a little bit. Where are we now? Is the backlog, are we up to date on that, or are schools still waiting for us to be able to help them?
I'm so glad that you raised that question, Representative, because we have diligently, as an agency, reached out to, or in a process, I should say, of reaching out to all of the school districts in the Commonwealth, in conjunction with Homeland Security, some of those what we call protective service advisors that are in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we recently met to discuss that very issue. There is a need to have greater collaboration regarding what we call RVAT assessments of our school buildings in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. What I'd like to do is, Major William Horgus, who is our Deputy Commissioner of Operations, is really being the focal point for ensuring that we have the necessary resources in place to address what you just highlighted is the backlog that we have, but more importantly, looking at how we will handle these kinds of RVAT surveys going forward.
Could I interrupt for 1 minute just to help our chairman work diligently to stay within time? My questions were meant to be short questions for, a high flyby on where we are. Sure. I don't want to cut you short, but I want to try to just help our chairman get back on time. So, and I have one other short question after this. So, I appreciate your answer.
I'll be brief.
Thank you,
Mr. Brevity, is what they call me. At any rate, sir. The Colonel and I discussed, that's one of our goals for this year, is to get those assessments completed. The RVAT, the people in our Domestic Security Office, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, it's a limited staff. They've been trained with the special training out of Glencoe, Georgia. We came up with the possible solution of training our community service officers in the troops, in the 15 troops. That's what's going to take place. They're going to receive that training to get that backlog done. And also, they're going to receive training to provide to the school on active shooter.
Thank you very much for those answers. If you could just provide at a later date to our chairman just where we are, the data on that, where we are, if you have a quantifiable number, just so I have in the back of my head from year to year as you come before us. You like to see some kind of progress, and I appreciate your answer. On heroin, Colonel, you mentioned that we can't arrest our way out of the heroin problem. It's an important issue in my district. Many people, I have a rural district and a suburban district, and many people would think that maybe we don't have as much of the problem. But as you know, this is an epidemic that's touching everyone, all different walks of life across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You mentioned education, prevention are the key in a multifaceted approach. I think they're important words. That's why I'm repeating them. You also said you've developed presentations for communities. My office will be in touch with the PSP to try to get you to come out to a meeting that we're going to be setting up in the next couple of months. And I just want to join your voice and say, I remember when I was younger, my dad he gave me my confidence, I think, and he always said, you can do anything you want to do, anything you set your mind to, one of those things. And it always stuck with me. But then one day he said to me, he basically said, you're smart enough. I think he was fibbing a little bit, because you get older and you start to realize you're not as smart as you thought you were. But he wanted to put confidence in me. And then one day he said to me, there's one thing you can't do, and that's lie. He wanted to make the point to me, stay away from that. That's a pitfall in dealing with people and having good character. And that's the message I think about with heroin, is that we have to get a message out there that tells kids, you can't handle this. You can't handle heroin. You have to stay away from it. That's a prevention end. My question, short, 30,000-foot level, how far can you go on the prevention side? Do you think there's other agencies that are more equipped to handle the prevention side and should team with us? And who are those agencies, if you believe that's true?
Sure. Clearly, heroin opioid challenge, as I like to refer to it here in the Commonwealth, is real. I think there's greater room for collaboration or partnering with a number of entities. I personally like working at the county level. I think there's great utility in that. Working at the county level, as well as from that state level with county representatives, targeting schools and other locales in the respective counties. I simply believe that addiction is real. And I'm speaking for someone that spent a lot of time in drug law enforcement as a young trooper, and been involved in the management side of things, being a director of the state's Bureau of Drug Law Enforcement. It is a real challenge. One size doesn't fit all. It's going to take a real collaborative effort. Parents, school administrators, law enforcement, I think, is a part of that as well. But it's not an impossible task. We just have to sit down and make sure we have the right people at the table. And I believe you're right. We can make an inroad into this if we have to start in the schools. That's probably a good place to start.
Thank you, Colonel. I'd like to thank you for your time today and thank both my chairmen. Thanks.